everybody, and welcome to another NAB Amplify. We are on the road to NAB 2023. It is the 100th anniversary show, and we are doing show floor tours. And we're actually talking to one of our show floor tour guides who's going to be leading the new production modalities tour. And this is all about immersive content, VR, AR, all the new solutions that are bubbling up, virtual production, everything that is impacting the future of content. And I can't think of a better tour guide and also someone to really share with us, because she's deep in the heart of all of this, the fabulous Christina Heller, who's the CEO of Metastage. I'm going to let Christina tell you all about what Metastage is up to, but we're going to do a little bit of some saucy seed planting about what we're going to see at the NAB show on these new technologies. Christina, tell us all about you.
Well, it is so nice to be here. Thank you for having me. I have been working in immersive and emerging technologies now for almost a full decade. I started a VR content company back in 2014 called VR Playhouse. And then 5 years ago, had the incredible opportunity to launch and lead my current company, Metastage. Metastage specializes in bringing real people, real performances to virtual platforms. So we do that using, an incredible top of the line studio here in Los Angeles, California, 106 cameras. We do work in fashion, music, sports, training, enterprise. So, it's funny, before all of this, I was actually into documentary filmmaking and journalism and multimedia content. And so it's been really fun being able to bring real people, real performances into this, into our metaverse future.
I love when you talk to me about what you're doing, because the people that come to turned into virtual assets are from so many different categories, whether they're musicians or it's even B2B sometimes, or for movies or music videos. So there's so many different categories. So we're going on this journey at NAB show this year. It's the 100th anniversary. And what you do and all this sort of virtualization of content is so key and core to the future of where entertainment is going. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on out there? Because you and I talk about this a lot, that virtual reality and metaverses, yes, that's the stuff that we always talk about, but there's real business cases here happening now. And a lot of the stuff that you do in sort of volumetric capture can also be repurposed a number of different ways. And that's what is going to be exciting about this tour, and also our panel discussion at the show on new production modalities, which Christina will be on, which is that, all of this can feed into other things you're doing. It's not one time shoot something or virtualize something and then never use it again. So tell us a little bit about this world that's brewing right now.
Yeah. So, in the past 10 years, the tools for developing 3D technology that's used on virtual and augmented reality platforms are also now being realized to their full potential in traditional media forms too, virtual production pipelines and workflows. And so that's been a really exciting development of the past 2 years. When you look at volumetric video, for instance, like what we do at Metastage, let's say I did a capture of Laurie Schwartz, the one and only, discussing the 100th anniversary of NAB. We could take that hologram, if you want to call it that, of Laurie, and bring it into an augmented reality application where we could place her anywhere, on the streets of New York or on my kitchen table. And you could be giving that, that pitch, in any environment. You can also bring that 3D capture and put it into a virtual environment. And maybe if I'm in a VR headset, I'm standing right in front of you and looking at you as if you are standing right in front of me. We could also then use a virtual camera in that virtual environment with the 3D capture of you, and do like a dazzling bullet time effect, and create a cinematic moment that could be then used in an advertising campaign for TikTok or for Instagram. And then on top of it, as you grow older and and mature, we would always have this amazing moment of you at this moment in your career. So I always like to think about the archival element of what we're doing today too. It's almost like what a photograph might have been, 100 years ago. So I think that's been just, to summarize it, I think that's been one of the exciting developments of the past 2 years, is looking at all the advancements in real time game engine tech, virtual and augmented reality tech, and seeing like, wow, it actually can aid and enhance, movie, TV, commercial workflows too.
Yeah, the way that you talk about it is so exciting, because I can also see on this NAB tour sort of hitting all these pipeline stops that lead to the story that you just told, which is, you take care of volumetric capture here, and you take care of virtual production here, and this is where you do that, or just the cameras and the LED walls and all the different solutions and, the gaming engines and everything that you need to make all of this happen. How do you keep up with it? Like, are vendors coming to you? Like, what do you find as a way to, we have so many producers out there who are trying to learn about all this. What's the best way to keep up with all this stuff?
Well, honestly, I do think conferences are a great resource. I always recommend people who are just getting into the scene to, go to a conference, mingle, get to know people, because at the end of the day, tools are great, but everything's led by people. So get to know the people who are working in this industry, and then you'll start to learn about the tools through those people. I'm also really lucky because at Metastage, we work to bring partners and clients projects to life. So a lot of times somebody will come to me with a project idea, and they'll have an idea that I've never even considered before. And then as I'm learning about how we can execute that idea, I'm now becoming aware of, the latest and greatest of tools and technology to do things like that, So that's the beauty of working in, I think, content in this space. I always say this. I mean, content is where it all comes together, right? Hardware, software, financing, distribution, tech, like audiences, UX, UI, all of it. So if you work in content, you have visibility into the entire ecosystem.
That's so well stated, because one of the things that I tell people about going to shows like NAB is that even if you're a more traditional storyteller, like if you're the creative producer or the writer, that you need to now understand more than ever before what are the ways that your story is going to be told, because it's not just linear anymore. And so you almost have to really have an understanding now of how all this tech works. Are you finding more creative people coming to you, to really participate so that they understand how to tell the story?
Definitely. And yeah, I think that, the tools have never been more accessible. They've never been more powerful. Things that really felt obscure, like Unity and Unreal, like maybe 6 years ago. Now there's free classes, there's plenty of online resources. So I think that this, the current generation of filmmakers, they don't see as much of a delineation between games and TV and, media. They realize that there are many, ways to tell stories, that a lot of the tools to do it overlap. And so I think, we're already seeing, like, for instance, the impact of video games on cinema. And again, immersive technology is right there, being, in the middle of it all. So to answer your question, yes. I mean, I've been hugely inspired by some of the work that's come through. I mean, we just had somebody do the first ever volumetric capture TikTok filter. And it was for Bob the drag queen from RuPaul's Drag Race, and he, it was just, the tech hadn't ever come together in this way where we'd been able to bring the hologram and make it a TikTok filter, but through sheer force of will, we got Bob the drag queen on TikTok, and now they've done something that's never been done before.
Oh my God! So you're using volumetric capture as a snap filter. That is so clever. I never would have thought about that either. God. Sorry. Yes.
And not just, honestly, and when I say that was just like a week ago that we finally saw that published for the first time. And that was done by a creator named Sims. And he was just single-mindedly focused on making this happen, and was able to pull the various teams together that were necessary to make the technology work.
So is it kind of then necessary for today's creative to be a bit of a cinematographer, a bit of a lighting director, a bit of a technologist, all of these things to really understand it? I mean, I tell a lot of writer and producer friends of mine to just start with getting a VR headset so they could at least see what's going on in that space, because it's not like they're setting out to be a VR director, but they might become one because, just doing the linear show is not the only distribution of their story. Would you recommend that as well, or how are you?
Well, I think that there are generalists and then there are specialists, and I think that this, immersive technology is the most multimedia collaborative form of creation I think that's ever existed, because it pulls from every single one of those backgrounds to create an experience. And so I think, I personally am a bit more of a generalist. Like, I like to know a little bit about everything so that I can see it from like a holistic perspective and how it can all work together. But that being said, there are people who are experts at lighting for game engine, and there are people who are experts at spatial audio. So I think it's about knowing yourself and your interests. Do you want to be someone that knows a little bit of everything, or do you want to be someone that really develops an expertise in this one area, and you can contribute that to a specific project?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I like to know a little bit about everything, but then I call you. You know what I mean?
And if I don't know it, I'll call somebody.
That's right. And it is, we were just talking to Eric Weaver about virtual production, and one of the things that he said that really struck me is that all the different players in this, all the different stages and the different people sort of selling their virtual production solutions talk to each other and recommend each other. And it's not like the days of yore where you would never talk about your competitor. Because right. You're all sort of sharing the technology and sort of living off of each other's sort of advancements and then evolving things. So it's really unique to this community. Now, there were a lot of, in the last couple months, a lot of layoffs and a lot of technologies that we had a lot of hopes in shutting down. Does that not bode well for this space, or is that just really a normal sort of cleaning of the house?
Some people don't like this, but it is what it is. When things happen, then there is a, effect of those actions. Certainly, we saw a lot of shakeups, for instance, at Microsoft recently. But in the wake of that, I've been talking to so many teams, and there's been so many conversations around collaboration and new ideas and new approaches to technology. So I think that, the desire to see immersive technology come to fruition, truly manifest in a more broad way is powerful. And there are enough players in the game, both big players and also independent creators, that are eager to be a part of that when, a program goes away, it doesn't stop the current of the full vision that I think is coming to life. It just means that people tend to reorganize. And I'm always like an optimist. I think that, change can be good, and new things can come when certain players decide that they don't want to do it anymore.
Right. They're a surge of all that talent sort of pushes other things forward, which I think is very exciting. And I mentioned to a group that we're all on, a chat group that we're all on, that the Producers Guild of America just announced their Innovation Awards. And I would say that like 2/3 of the projects are some form of immersive project, which I thought was very interesting, mostly because it's sitting under innovation when really it's, everything is always innovating, but it's also normal entertainment now too. It's becoming kind of normal. So it'll be interesting to see some of these projects you're working on sort of leave that sort of new and funky and just be like, this is normal. Building this experience is standard operating procedure. Are you seeing sort of heads of studio and people like that just accepting that this is an area that they need to develop projects in? Has their attitude about it?
Definitely. I mean, we're talking with, some of the biggest media companies in the world about using this to create content, and I think, not to just keep coming back to this, but the power of virtual production seems to be this nice bridge at the moment towards, I think, what will be our true immersive future. The fact is that everybody is coming to talk to us about volumetric capture, LED walls, real-time game engine technology for their existing IP. How can we leverage it to make our workflows cheaper, faster, better, more effective? And then, because those are the same tools that you then use to create virtual and augmented reality experiences, it's a no-brainer to add those components to whatever campaign you're building. So I will say that, despite the shakeups of the last 6 months in the tech sector, we still see, a tremendous amount of interest in this space. And sometimes I think that the headlines make it seem like it's a bit more dramatic, I think, than it actually is when you're actually in the day-to-day experience of it. Not to discount, though, the many people who did get laid off and are looking for work. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of new companies popping up, a lot of, startups and some of the forces that have made a commitment to immersive tech, only strengthening with all the new talent that's out there.
Oh my God, you make it sound so exciting. Like, I want to go on this tour with you right now.
Well, come on down.
Well, and what I love about a show like NAB is it does reflect what's happening in the industry. So I'm excited about, you sort of telling this story about all these different things that you just mentioned. And we're also going to hear you on a panel talking about this as well. So definitely we're going to be joining Christina Heller at the NAB show 2023, the 100th anniversary, talking about new production modalities. We're going to have a tour. We're going to have a conference track about it, and we're going to hear really more of your experience in this space because there's so much happening. Thank you so much, Christina.
Thank you, Lori. I'm really excited.